Don't say that.
Don't say that.
They might get discouraged. We'll have another video for those who are ready to change. Diba? Kasi yun ang susunod eh. Hello and welcome to the Garcias. I'm Mommy Grace and with me today are
Daddy Dennis. Pico, the son.
So our topic for today is something that is part of the Casa Garcia, which is fasting.
Fasting, not fast eating. I think it started when we realized that we are getting old.
Old talaga o fat?
Old and fat. Old and fat at the same time. When we started having friends who were dying and we thought our daughter was too young to be an orphan, or we thought we didn't want to grow old, being a burden to our kids, taking care of us medically. So we said maybe we should start living a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. Started with, ang hirap kasi maging heavy. And then our lab started going nowhere. Kaya, we really tried a lot of things muna.
Running.
Diba? We did exercise. Ang sarap kumain after mag-exercise. So, wala rin. Diba?
Justified yung binging mo after an exercise.
Oh,
diba? After running a race, you say, anyway, I burned all those calories. So, I can
so we
eat as
tried
much.
that, diba? Tapos hindi nag-work.
Plus, we have classmates who told us that they are having an increase in the number of patients they're amputating. Dr. Iggy Agbayani was telling us.
Hello, eggs.
He's been having a lot of patients with diabetes who's been having below knee, above the knee amputations, and he was saying there must be something we can do rather than just keep amputating at the end of it. There must be something we can do to prevent this from happening. And we both have a strong family history of diabetes, so that was another incentive for us to really try to become healthier. And coincidentally, our classmates, our medical classmates, were also into the healthier lifestyle.
It all started with one of our classmates in med school sent me a link to this neurologist. It was about intermittent fasting for brain health, actually, for prevention of Alzheimer's. And my dad's family have a very strong background on Alzheimer's. So I thought, wow, if that could decrease my risk of having it, I would really like to try that. And that was a link to an intermittent fasting video, which at the time I received it was not acceptable.
Yeah.
What really started us on our journey is Jason Pong. Right? Dr. Jason Pong. And there we understood na if we don't stop eating for 12 hours, our fat stores will not open. I think that was the key takeaway that propelled us towards fasting, was that no matter what we did, kami kasi kung basta narinig namin na nag-work, we tried it out. Pero the key takeaway from his work is that if you don't fast for 12 hours, whatever excess baggage you have, it's gonna stay. Yung intermittent fasting kasi, kailangan kasi talaga 16 hours eh. 12 hours to get rid of all the food you have eaten. And then another 4 hours for the fat to decrease naman for that day.
For the reserves naman.
For the reserves naman.
To be used up.
To be used up. So our problem was, how do you get through the 16 hours? When in the beginning, it's really horrible.
Basically, what you're doing is you're giving your body to burn all the food that you ate before you start eating again.
The two compartments, di ba? You have to empty out your glycogen stores fully before your body can use fat, the fat that you have everywhere in your body, as the main source of fuel. So I told him the only way you are going to power through a 16-hour fast would be to include your sleeping hours, skip breakfast, and take a 12 noon meal, and then another one between 6 to 8. Nag-start kami na 16 hours na no eating except fasting fluids. And then 8-hour
window
to eat.
So you choose when that 8-hour would be.
Yes, and of course, at the times that you do eat, you have to eat well so that you can manage your fasting time again tomorrow.
Pero as beginners, you really look forward to that 8-hour period, and while you're fasting, you dream of that 8-hour period na once we hit that 16th hour, naku, I'm dreaming of eating this much and this many things I'm going to eat later. But later on, you realize you won't have the appetite or the capacity to eat as much as you thought or you planned you would eat.
I've lost 60 pounds along that journey, and it took us 6 years to do that. So by the standards of many other people, we lost weight so slowly. And I remember I posted in my Facebook
Before and
after pictures. On my 4th year, by the time I've already lost mga 40 pounds. And some of the people in the Facebook asked in the comment section, which one is the before and which was the after? So it really takes a lot of time. Pero kasi
and usually people wouldn't notice. You'd know your clothes lumuluwag na sila, so you know you're losing weight. But people will not notice it unless you've lost about 20 pounds or more. But in the first 20 pounds, people would say, talaga, mapayat ka. Okay, sige.
Don't lose heart. Just continue doing it. And it also opens up for you on a different realm, I guess, in the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, the entry point to God is self-denial. So when you're practicing fasting, and that's self-denial definitely, you find your connection to God clearer, stronger. And when you're succeeding in your fast, you're also making leaps and bounds in your spiritual life. Kaya the church has always advocated fasting. Kasi it's something so basic that if you could say no to it, you can say no to all the other less desirable things.
The church would say fasting weakens the body so that it may sharpen the spirit. And the other thing about fasting is, it's very liberating for food not to have a hold on you. It's hard to imagine that now, but what we realize is we spend so much time thinking about food. Like if we're having lunch, we say, okay, where will I have lunch? Is there parking there? How long will they prepare the food? Then how long will I eat the food? After that, how long will it take me to get out of that place and go brave the traffic to get back to my next destination after lunch? Then after that, you start worrying about what am I going to eat for dinner. You easily spend 3-4 hours a day thinking about food, consuming food, and preparing food or preparing to the place where you're going to have your meal. And when you suddenly realize that you're going to eat a lot less, and you say, I have an extra hour because I'm not eating. The first day, I remember, we were in the clinic.
Yes. So the first day of his fast, ang mali namin, hindi kami nag-prepare ng fluids, what they call fasting fluids, right? These are things you may drink that will not break your fast. Like
water, black coffee, bone broth.
Tea. Pwede rin. Basta walang sweeteners. So we didn't have any of those. So, yung clinic namin, merong intercom. So, at 11 o'clock, we were still seeing patients. Tawag si Dennis sa intercom. Sabi niya, hindi ko na kaya hanggang 2 o'clock. Nanginginig na ako sa gutom. Which happens when you're in transition.
And the patient at the time heard the burburing, the
yeah.
And said, Dok, ikaw yun? Gutom na ako. Hindi ako nag-almusal eh.
And I told him, kaya mo yan, 1 oras na lang. Tandaan mo yung mga tao sa Africa, hindi ko makain. But it was a really hard time.
I can imagine if someone who's watching isn't already starting fasting and they see this, they might be overwhelmed with the data or with the many changes that someone who fasts does. So I was thinking, if someone who was watching wasn't already fasting and they wanted to start, where would they begin?
So if you're a first timer, I would suggest first you get as much information as you need. That's the first one. Kasi the natural progression of change usually begins with first the desire, and then second the knowledge. So before we started, we made a very strong foundation on our desire. So nanonood kami kay Dr. Jason Fong, tapos
you entrench your why.
You entrench your why, kung bakit. And then I actually bought 2 ebooks of Jason Fong, which is the Obesity Code, and the other one is, I think it's All You Need to Know About Fasting. Yeah, so I read through that. I read through that first, and then so many other, when my friends when they knew that I was interested in it, they sent me other doctors to watch, etc. And I took from those videos what I could implement already. So my suggestion is, if you haven't started anything, watch ka muna and then read up on it. And then when you have already an idea of the things that you could possibly do based on your lifestyle right now, then you can start it. You give yourself a 2-week period when you're not too busy, when there's nothing stressful in your life, and pick that.
And don't go on that program when you're planning a family vacation or
Ay,
there's a big
hindi.
wedding coming up.
No.
Don't time it at
No.
holidays.
Don't go on the fasting program without your fasting fluids. Plan your bone broth, which is the one that will tide you over in the beginning. Eventually, you won't need it. If you're not yet sure, at least try to get your coffee black. Initially, with maybe some sweeteners, which they don't want then in the end, kasi that will make you still want that sweet taste.
Craving for sugar remains.
Coffee is mapait talaga eh. Wala tayong magagawa. Pero ang galing ng coffee to take away, to chase
Hunger,
away
yeah.
hunger. Grabe. Mga 3 hours, it's gonna do that.
Plus
Always
water.
have water on hand. Yes.
Water is a good hunger chaser.
Yes,
Every time
it's
you
a good
feel
hunger chaser.
hungry, you drink water and it tides you over for 30 minutes to another 2 hours. The only thing
Yes.
is, you'll always have to be near comfort room.
And then have soup, clear soup on hand. You don't buy the bouillon because of its many preservatives. But go to your favorite place to buy ulam, and you buy sinigang or bulalo soup and stock up on them. Place it on containers. Then you start your fasting. A lot of the people who are against fasting say that they don't like to fast because they overeat in the meals. That was not our experience. When you're fasting, your capacity to eat becomes less. Parang you dream of the time that you're going to eat. Halatang matakaw talaga, di ba? Pero pag nandun ka na, if you chew that food well, hindi ka rin makakonsume.
Based on our experience, you can never eat more in an 8-hour period what you would usually eat in a 24-hour period.
So you can never eat more in an 8-hour period what you would normally eat if you weren't fasting.
If you weren't fasting in a 24-hour period. And if you're going to eat twice, kasi you can't eat 3 times naman in an 8-hour period eh. Busog ka pa eh. You'd still be full. So at the most, you're going to eat twice in that 8-hour period. And eating 2 meals in a day, you could never eat more food in 2 meals versus than you would in 5, 3 meals regularly or 2 meriendas. You can never, that can never happen. You'd be too full to eat that much.
You'd have to ignore your feeling of satiety to do that.
But we eat because we like the satisfaction of
If
you eat more, you'd be faced with the discomfort of being too full.
Yes. Pag
Unless you're eating dessert, which doesn't make you
yes,
feel full.
Yeah.
And when people say they overeat or they're doing their fasting but they're not losing weight, it's usually because of the quality of the food that they're eating. And the only way to survive a fast talaga is to eat whole foods. We're still proponents of that concept, to eat whole foods. These are the foods that are only placed in the sides of the
Grocery.
the grocery. Never go in the middle. These are the foods whose only processing is your refrigerator. So that includes all plants and protein. Meat, chicken, fish, seafood. If you eat whole foods, you will never be hungry. Which means when you do feel hungry, you take a fasting fluid and it goes away. But the eating portion is also important, so you can also go through your next fast.
What you're supposed to know is how do you prepare yourself to last that 16 hours or even longer. I guess the secret is you'll have to be very, very meticulous about what you're going to eat during the eating window, because it's going to affect the way your body reacts or the way your body behaves with the food that you're eating, which will greatly affect your state during the fasting period. I think for the beginners, one thing they'll have to remember is it's not a diet. It's not something you'll do to lose weight, and then the moment you lose weight, you abandon it. It's not really a program. It's really a lifestyle change. It's something that you're planning to do for the rest of your life. Seriously, it's something that you could stick to because it's something that you could really make into a new lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's not there just to hit a weight goal and then after which you stop doing it. It's something you plan to do, something that you plan to do whether the holidays would come, whether you're attending a wedding, whether there's a big vacation coming up. It's something that you could still do and not worried that, oh no, I'm gaining weight again.
I guess that's the reason why, if they're only beginning, it's important, one, to entrench their whys, and two, to remember that it can take years since it's a lifestyle. You can start with one change at a time. Maybe start with the fasting first, eventually move on to changing your diet.
Part of that fastings would be behavioral modifications, changes in the behavior. And yeah, one is when you go to the grocery, you stick to the periphery, never go in the middle. Sabi ni Iggy, anything that's packaged, anything with a label,
anything
is processed. Anything that comes in a plastic.
Yes. Anything that you harvest and then you do something to it,
It's
not good for you.
Tapos, di ba, part of it also is no mindless eating. Meaning, if you're going to eat, you don't eat in front of the TV or any screen. We're supposed to eat, which we do during the movie nights. We're supposed to only eat at the dining table. Yeah? You're not supposed to associate car rides with eating, so you're supposed to take that out. Everything should be mindful. If you're going to eat, the main activity should be eating. I think one big step which we also advise to our patients in pediatrics, avoid colored drinks. Just stick with water and coffee. That would be the only fluids that you'll take. All the other colored drinks, which are mainly high in sugar, you stay away from them, and over a couple of months you'd notice you're losing weight. That, I guess, what you should remember, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a number of years, for us at least.
6 years.
Yeah, it was one change in our lifestyle and our diet at a time. So it just evolved into fasting, 16 and 8. Eventually, it's 1 meal a day.
You have to put it in stages. Don't expect to ace it at once. Little victories always count.
Okay.
Okay.
Kayo mag-conclude.
On that note, you have to say your
Bye.
closing. No.
Close it for me.
That concludes this, that concludes this video. Yun na lang.
That concludes this video. Yun na lang.
Bye. Bye-bye. Parang ganun yung vibe. Bilog tayo. Tapos, ito si
Nasaan na
Sparky.
Sparky, hi.
Hello.
Hello, and
Sparky.
welcome to the Garcias.
Ahoy. This B-roll is for you. This behind the scenes is for you. Shout out to Sparky.
Ahoy.
Ahoy, matey.